Hello, thank you for coming. Few short words from several people, many words of thanks. First, Kathy Pimentel, who's hosting the party here, so thank you.
Hello, friends of the Trestle. We are so happy to have you here this evening. I'm Kathy Pimentel, and my property is over there. It goes down to the Trestle, which has been the backdrop of my life for 50 years. And do I love that trestle and do I want it to be preserved? You bet I do. My neighbor is Severn Edmonds. Where's Seth? Oh, he tends to disappear, but there he is. This is Severn Edmonds, and he's the man with the caboose. And I'm sure that if you twist his arm really hard, he will give you a tour of the caboose, and he'll tell you, yes, how he got it there. It was not easy.
Take it for a ride.
Yeah. Together, we are delighted to welcome you to this California Historic Resource Willow Glen Trestle Party. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, and the trestle being designated as a California Historic Resource gave us the perfect opportunity. So thank you for coming and for showing your support. We really love having you here. We have another really important reason for gathering here today, and that is to honor and thank Larry Ames for all the work he has done over the years to protect our beautiful structure from the wrecking ball. Larry can be a true diplomat when it comes to working with opposing forces, but he can also be a bulldog with a bone when something that he values is threatened. He has devoted countless hours, energy, and personal resources to saving the trestle. We in the community are so lucky to have him leading the battle, because without him we would not be here today. Instead of the venerable, unique, and officially historic structure that we see behind us, there would be a generic steel bridge just like all of the other 8 generic steel bridges that span the creek. So, saving the trestle is not a done deal yet, and Larry will tell you about what's going on, but thanks to his efforts, there's a good chance that one of these days we will have another party right here to celebrate the reopening of the newly refurbished trestle. And if you want to see what that might look like, there are some pictures over on the side of the shed that will show you a similar trestle, and it is going to be gorgeous. We will walk across it on that day, champagne glasses in hand, and we will celebrate, all of us here, all of the friends of the trestle and friends of Larry, with Larry leading the way, and we will have triumphed in preserving a unique structure that forms a vital part of our community and Willow Glen's history. So here's to Larry Ames.
Thank you. Next up is Martha. Martha Heinrich, you want to come and say something too? Martha, you've been helping so much with the history.
I want to take this opportunity tonight to thank each one of you for supporting the trestle, whether it has been openly through letters, emails, personal appearances when we needed you down at City Hall or in the courtroom, monetary support, or whether your support came from behind the scenes. The trestle is standing today because of the dedication and determination of Larry Ames. And because we had your steadfast support along the way. I would like to share with you a portion of one of the special support letters we received from the grandchildren of Howard Smitten. Through the diligent work of one of our own Willow Glen expert researchers, Jean Dresden, she discovered that Howard Smitten was born here in San Jose in 1878, graduated from Berkeley in engineering, served during World War I with the Army's 37th Engineers, building bridges in the U.S. and across France. And after the war, Howard returned to San Jose. Quoting now from the grandchildren's letter, quote, "As you know, Howard was likely the structural engineer directing the Willow Glen Trestle project, having been appointed bridge engineer for Western Pacific Railroad in early 1921. One of our most vivid memories of visiting our grandparents was a picture Howard had drawn that hung by the dining room table entitled "The Bridge" and dated February 2, 1929. It is an idealized bridge itself. He had copied a famous poem by Will Allen Drumgoole, a very popular poet of the early 20th century, titled "The Bridge Builder." In the poem, the builder is asked why he has built the bridge, and the builder responds, quote, "There followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been not to me, to that fair youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him." Their letter continues, quote, "Those lines capture our grandfather's spirit, building so that others will benefit. For us, and we would hope for others, the Willow Glen Trestle Bridge symbolizes that ideal." Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Martha. And then next, Councilmember Don Rocha from District 9. Come on.
No, I'm just going to adjust the mic for you.
Yeah, get it the right height.
You're a pro at this, right?
No, it's supposed to be, but
All right, well, you'll be better after today. Right? Is that right?
yes. Thank you, Larry. I want to thank you for the invitation to come here. Oftentimes, you get asked to go to an event, and they want to thank you for the work you've done in the council or a vote you did. But for me, this was completely flipping the script, which was I wanted to come here so I could thank you for what you've done. Really, I'm not going to go back in the story of how this got to council. I think it was 3 different major votes that we had. And the first vote, unfortunately, I voted to, what the staff recommendation was, to get rid of the trestle. It came before me in a staff report. I trusted staff's guidance on this. There was some community comment on this, but I did not do my homework. And it's pretty rare that an elected official will say out loud that I didn't do my homework and I failed on that vote. And the next time that came before me, I said that out loud. I think I put it in writing and said, I failed that first time around and I'm not going to fail again. History's important. I'm a lifelong resident of San Jose in this county, and I miss a lot of the things that we've seen disappear. And there was another vote that came before us, and it was the Century Theaters. And I think at that point, after the Trestle Century Theater, I put my foot down and said, enough's enough. I've been on this council for now 6 years, but at the time it was 4 or 5 years, and I haven't done a darn thing to maintain any of the important history of San Jose. I've done nothing but approve projects that redevelop, tear down, and start over. And to suggest that when we put up a plaque a plaque is just a plaque. I mean, we can do better. And too often I'd been saying we can do better and we're not. The Greyhound station downtown San Jose that's going down, a plaque is as good as we got out of it. And again, at that meeting, I said, can we do better? And it's too often that City Hall doesn't make an effort to do better. And for me, I'm going to say, I'm sorry we didn't do better on this. His fight's not over. Thank you to this incredible man and the Friends of the Willow Glen Trestle. Really, I'm here just to say thank you for everything you've done. And I'm still going to be up there fighting for this issue. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out here. I want to thank, can you hear me? Or can you?
Right there.
Okay.
Big mouth right here.
How about this one? Is this one working?
You good?
Okay. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank Severin Edmonds and Kathy Pimentel for having us here, for hosting this event here. It's a wonderful event. Start out by telling a story. A number of years ago, a friend and I worked at a small company. Every so often, our manager would pass us in the hall and ask us how things were going. I would respond that I was working on this task or trying to solve some other problem. Whereas my friend would say he just completed this other task or had just solved the other problem. When it came time for the company to downsize, I was the one that was let go because they never figured I did anything. The moral of the story is that while you have to keep your eye on what you're working on, the tasks ahead, it's also important to acknowledge the accomplishments. And so that's with that in mind, that's what we're doing here today. There's a lot of tasks yet to go, but it's important to take time to acknowledge the accomplishments. The listing of the Willow Glen Trestle on the California Register of Historic Resources. There's so much history here to talk about and so many groups and individuals to acknowledge. That's why I had to write them all down here. First, some of the history. In 1864, the first rail connected San Jose to San Francisco, and within a few years, San Jose was connected to the entire country. By the early 1900s, we were famous here for our fruit trees, and this was known as the Valley of Heart's Delight. This is also the time of the robber barons, and Southern Pacific had San Jose in their train monopoly. Local agricultural interests convinced T.S. Montgomery, one of the richest men in town, to join the board of the rival Western Pacific Railroad to bring it to San Jose and to bring in some competition. In 1922, this trestle here connected San Jose. The main train stations on Santa Clara Street, right up there, just a few blocks that way, connected over this trestle around town to Niles Canyon and off to the train network. It broke the monopoly. Also, Western Pacific was innovative with new services such as overnight delivery and less than carload services. So the farmers did not have to fill an entire carload to be able to make a shipment. Both of these were very beneficial to the local small farmers. Western Pacific and the trestle shaped this part of town here. As Mr. Montgomery had promised, Willow Glen was to be kept residential. There's no spurs and businesses in the town here. In fact, his company built quite a few of the houses in the area here. The next block over, almost all the houses are built by his company. And meanwhile, on the other side of the trestle is an industrial area with the canneries. There's also lumber yards, concrete, a lot of industry. So it shaped this whole section of town. Over the years, the cities grew and the farming faded. And in the 1970s, Rod Deardon helped Don Hebbard start the Los Gatos Creek Streamside Park Committee to help coordinate the planning of the Los Gatos Creek Trail through the area here. Zoe Lofgren formally appointed me to the committee in 1984. Around 1984, we on the committee hiked through the creek channel here to consider possible alignments for the trail. And that is when I first discovered the Willow Glen Trestle. And it was magical, just walking through this suburban area and suddenly seeing this railroad trestle. I felt like I'd walked back in time. So we in the committee started back then to work with city planners to figure out how to showcase this trestle as part of the trail. It's been a 30-year project here. In the year 2000, San Jose created the Parks Department's strategic plan called the Green Print. And it recommended that the Western Pacific Railroad alignment should be converted into a trail, the Three Creeks Trail, if and when rail service was discontinued. Well, it turns out the following year, 2001, they did discontinue the service, and so the railroad right-of-way came up for sale. We in the community then worked with then Councilmember Ken Yeager and later on with Councilmember Pierluigi Oliverio for the city to acquire the land. It took a decade for this to work with the railroad to actually buy the land, but it was finally able to buy it, in large part to the millions of dollars in grants from county parks, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, the Santa Clara Valley Water District, and the state of California. I want to give a shout out to Blanc Alvarado and Jim Bell. They both were very helpful with this. By the year 2012, the city owned the land and the trestle. It had the needed permits from the state and the local governments. It had the funding, and it had detailed engineering plans on how to restore the trestle for incorporation into the trail network. For some reason, in early 2013, the city decided to buy a new prefab steel bridge, and they directed that it be placed here. It was not a unified front. Then Councilmember Sam Liccardo helped us a number of times pulling items off the consent calendar. Council members Javier Campos, Don Rocha, and Raul Perales at different times have voted to save the trestle. So it's not been unanimous that the city wants to do this. Also, I want to acknowledge the city's Historic Landmarks Commission and the county's Heritage Commission. So all of them have been supportive of the trestle. The city staff's officially stated reason for demolishing the trestle basically was nobody knows it's there, so nobody will miss it. So to fix that, we gave a lot of tours and newspaper articles. People know about the trestle now. We've also suggested that the new bridge, it's not going to go to waste. That there's a number of different places in the city where it could be used. The Coyote Creek Trail needs to have a new bridge to replace the Singleton landfill crossing bridge. The state of California is telling them they have to fix that. This would fit just perfectly there. If you don't want to put it there, you can put it down in Almaden Valley. If you don't want it there, there's a place in Kelly Park needs it. There's a number of places we can put it. To help save the trestle, we asked the community to show its support. We put an email out, and within 3 days, there were over 100 emails written to the city council, many of them with very heartwarming and personal stories, fond memories and family connections. And throughout this 4-year battle, I've been discouraged a number of times. When that happens, I go back and read some of those letters from 3 years ago. It inspires me to keep going. To get the city to stop its march towards destruction, and also to get the city to do a proper environmental review, we formed the Friends of the Willow Glen Trestle with help from Preservation Action Council of San Jose, and we had to file a suit under the CEQA law. And I'll give a shout out to Gene Dresden, Helen and Dan Chapman, Martha Heinrichs, Scott Lane, Brian Grayson, Gail Frank, and also my wife, Liv. Where are you? Where's Liv? Anyhow. Many thanks for everybody. Thank you. We are extremely fortunate to find Susan Brandt Hawley for our lawyer. She specializes in CEQA law and practices statewide in historic preservation. And while the legal process is still ongoing, the City Council did finally do the environmental impact report. And that EIR shows that it is faster and cheaper to restore the trestle than it is to replace it. It is readily made safe and made fire safe, and both the computer modeling and also the recent rains showed that it is not an impediment to the flow of the floodwaters, and creosote and all, it is better for the creek and the habitat to just leave the trestle in place than it is to try to remove it. However, the EIR also says that a replacement bridge would also work, and given that the city has already bought that replacement, if this trestle was not found to be historic, most likely it would not be here for long. So, it was at that point that we began researching the trestle's past. Jean and Martha did amazing research. Deborah Arant and Richard Nysent had thrown us a fundraiser party a while ago, and that paid for us to be able to hire a historian, Seth Bergstein, who did a digital research and then wrote our application for the historic state listing. With help from William Berg and Jay Correa at the State Office of Historic Preservation, a year ago we filed for National Historic Recognition. However, despite unanimous approval from the California Historical Resources Commission, our attempt failed when it got entangled in politics back in Washington, D.C. We applied again this year to the California Historic Resources Commission. And this time we went for the California Register. And this time our application was successful. The public support was critical. We got 24 letters of support formally sent to the state, far and away more than the average nomination that they had. We had letters from County Supervisor Dave Cortese, who's been very supportive of this process throughout this process. Letters from Linda Gibson and Jeffrey Smitten, who are the grandchildren of the Trestle's design engineers. We've got letters from the neighbors, from trail users, and from longtime supporters, longtime residents. I want to quote Commissioner Luis Hoyos. I'm encouraged and I'm glad to hear the community take such great interest in something that is theirs. The public support really made the difference. And by a roll call vote, it was a unanimous decision. The trestle is now formally listed on the California Register of Historic Places. There is more to do. Although the trestle is formally and officially listed as historic, the city continues to challenge the status. They've just filed a paper yesterday, in fact. We are also awaiting resolution of the court case. The EIR needs to be amended to reflect the trestle's historic status. And then there's a whole new city council. We need to inform them on the issues. And then we have to have them formally change the direction that it gives the Parks Department and the Public Works Department. They're still marching under the orders from 3 years ago. The trestle's historic status also opens up opportunities for more grant funding, and we'll be glad to help again to help the city apply for it. Additionally, we're holding another fundraiser this fall, look for an invite, which will show the public support and also help pay for trestle maintenance and repairs. We're optimistic. There's now lots of public awareness. People know about the trestle, and we have sense that there's a lot of public support. We look forward to working with the city and with all the stakeholders towards saving the trestle, restoring it, and making it a wonderful place here at the gateway to Willow Glen. All those tasks lie ahead, but for now, let us acknowledge our accomplishment, that the Willow Glen Trestle is now officially on the Register of Historic Resources. So let's celebrate. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Celebrate.